So, do you need a bodyguard or anything, or sales
Woo!
You like the movie?
Yeah. Woo!
See it again. You know, we got to hit 2 billion here, right?
So, Jesus. I don't know where to start. Did you know you were going to be in this? You were killed off in the first movie.
We were in Wellington, New Zealand, shooting the first one. We had a rare day off where we all it was kind of a party with crew and everything like that. And Cameron and I were having a beer together, and he said, you know, you're coming back. And, really? And I didn't quite believe it. I thought it might be the beer or something. Anyway, let that go because we hadn't even finished making the film, so it's a little premature to start talking about returning in the sequel. But anyway, then in 2010, after it came out and it was clear that the film was going to do well, we were at a dinner in LA, the Producers Guild Awards. I was presenting an award to him, and at the table he said, you know, you're back. And I said, really? I told you that 3 years ago. And I said, yeah, right? And then, and so I did know, I mean, for a long time. What I didn't know was how deeply enmeshed Quaritch would be in the narrative. You know, for all I knew, it could have been a flashback or something like that, or whatever. But it turned out to be very central to things as you can see.
Well, the first Avatar is the biggest film of all time. And there must have been a lot of pressure to outdo it, or at least equal it, or how does that affect, the sort of ambience on the set?
The ambience of it didn't affect that in the least. I mean, look, there's enough pressure making a film when you're, in any case, and this thing with so many different facets. Shot, so much technology going on all the time, so much safety that had to be observed, particularly in all the underwater stuff. So you're not really worried about the pressure of the box office, which I think is kind of what you mean there. So no, it was just a very focused set, I would say.
So I read in one of the articles or interviews with you that the whole idea you were visiting the scene of your death, so-called death in the first film, was your idea.
I would never, ever have brought that up on my own. I wouldn't do it. You know, look, this happens many, many times in films and in plays where an actor will have an idea, and it's a good idea, and it gets incorporated, and you don't in any way take credit for it. I could tell you some stories about stuff I know. In any case, the only reason that we could address this was that Jim Cameron brought this up himself. He was talking about collaboration, and he said, well, in fact, Slang wrote me about this scene. And it's true, I had this dream where Quaritch visited the scene of his own death and soliloquized over his own corpse or his own skeleton, as it were. And Jim responded to that very, very quickly. And it does a couple of things. First of all, it actually does advance the story. It gives you an opportunity to not only reflect on the past, it's a way to address the past, to supply some information about what happened, but also in this existential moment of kind of considering your own death, when you crush the skull, although it's supposed to act as kind of it's sort of a repudiation of the past for him, of failure, or rejection of failure, and also ending in the fist the way he does is kind of an indication of where he's going to go in the future. So it's got a certain poetry to it.
But, so the skull, I gather the skull was a mold of your own head?
They did, and the thing with the skull was, and of course they did multiple skulls. And they made it smaller, of course, because, you know, I'm big.
Right, you're a lot smaller than I thought.
I know, I'm sure. But our prop man, Brad Elliott, excellent prop man, he had all these skulls prepared, you know, for multiple takes, and he put them in the refrigerator. And so when I took the skull and I went to crush it, it was frozen. And I couldn't crush it. Even if quartz was, you know, really quartz, he couldn't have crushed it either. Because it was frozen solid, right? So I just stopped and I said, hey, Brad, asshole. You're making me look like a real, you know, schmuck here. Put the damn skull in the microwave. So we zapped him and then I could crush it.
So how did you, I mean, the role of, that you play in this film versus the role you play in the first film, I mean, how would you distinguish, how did you approach, you couldn't just replicate the Quaritch of the first film, so how did you approach, you know, being, being turned into now it's pronounced Navi. I always thought it was Navi. Navi, anyway, it were Navi eyes. So, so it's some sort of weird, combination of the two characters. How did you approach that?
Well, in a nutshell, I think that Quaritch, the original Quaritch, was very much kind of a right-angle character. He thought in straight lines, he moved in straight lines, very aggressive. He was really always trying to get that world of Pandora to conform to his vision of what he needed it to be. And he did a pretty good job within the confines of Hell's Gate. You know, that was the compound where they all lived. But ultimately it didn't work. So now he's been, you say, Navi-ized, you know, and the way he's Quaritch, sure. There's still that kind of aggressive, forward quality, swagger that he has, but there's also the way of water is now coursing through him. And that kind of, so I'm just talking about my thought process and what we discussed. So how does Pandora operate on him? And however it does, that's something we kind of try to discover in the acting of this. And there's hopefully a lot more discovery to come. How does that, well, one thing I know is that it confuses him. And he's a character who is not easily confused, not used to being confused. It's not his MO at all. But there are things that are happening to him that don't quite compute. And it's all this sort of, it's Pandora, it's AWOC working on him. I know that sounds kind of mumbo-jumbo-ish, but, what are you going to do? I'm talking about acting is hard in any case. It's always slightly esoteric.
And was the idea that this new character would, the reborn Quaritch would have the memory and the DNA of the original Quaritch, and yet in the body, in some sense, the body of a Navi. Was that your idea as well? I know you don't.
No. It wasn't. But if you do recall, that's very much Jim. That's part of the intention that he's had for this narrative all along. But you may recall in the original Avatar, when Quaritch sends Jake off to live amongst the Navi, I say, a marine attitude in a Navi body, that is a potent combination. It gives it a goosebumps. and in fact, that's exactly, just be careful about what you wish for, right? And there's just a wonderful kind of Cameron-esque irony in the fact concept that I've come back and reconstituted as the very thing that I've been trying to destroy.
So what was the idea behind Sigourney Weaver being, infantilized? I mean, come back as her own child. What was the idea behind that?
I'm not sure I can address that particularly well, other than she plays, and we know that the ways of Pandora they're mysterious. Awa is this force that is very much operating. Awa came to the rescue in the first film. Awa is a presence. And somehow, I think it's being suggested that there's a very, very intimate link between Kitty, played by, and who is the daughter, was born out of the avatar of Grace Augustine, which was the role that Sigourney played. It's just good sci-fi thinking. And where it goes, I think Sigourney's journey is going to be really fascinating as it continues, as she has to learn to accept, whatever it is, this mantle that's being thrust upon her by the planet. And she's such a treasure of an actor, Sigourney Weaver. She's got some talents to, get out there and play at 14. So successful. I just love her.
So, can you talk a little bit about a lot of this of the second film is shot with motion capture, with the performance capture. Can you describe what that is and how that affected the performances?
Well, performance capture is the technique that is used in order that will allow us the actor to give an authentic, an honest, and very specific performance that will then be translated into what you see on the screen. And it's done via a technology which uses all these contact points. You wear a suit, which looks like essentially a diving suit, and you have all these markers on it. And once you move within the performance space, which we call the volume, once you are in the performance space and you've been calibrated, you're turned on, as it were, everything you do will be recorded, will be made into an asset, which then later can be used, filmed any way you want. It doesn't alter acting at all. In some ways, it's actually much more fundamentally acting than than a lot of work in film. If you think of it this way, if we're doing a scene in a film, we're going to do a master shot, we're going to do a wide master, then we're going to come in for coverage, and eventually they're going to shoot over my shoulder to get your close-up, and then they're going to shoot over to get my close-up. And since I have to cry in this scene, because you tell me bad news in this scene, I'm going to hold on to my performance until that close-up comes on me. I'm going to save my tears. I'm not going to waste them, something like that. Well, so there's a certain type of that's just an example, obviously. There's a certain type of artificiality in that that's absolutely demanded by the process of acting on film. Whereas with performance capture, there's no such thing as coverage. Everything that we do, if we were all in a performance capture situation, all the assets, all the activities, everything we did together would be recorded. Then it can be viewed by the editors, by the director, and it can be translated into the film that he wants it to be. The problem with it, from my view, is that it's a bit like the cereal aisle in the supermarket. The choices are so wide at this point. You can make this film could have been made in an infinite number of ways with the assets that have been accrued, shooting and performance capture. But in terms of the actual work for an actor, I think that it works very well. It's not difficult. it's no more difficult than other actors.
This film was shot along with 3 and part of 4 and 5 films with, I mean, former sequels envisioned. Do you have any idea? Well, first of all, was it difficult to jump out? Were you jumping back and forth between like 2 and 3? How did that
We
work?
did 2 and 3 at the same time. So 3, which will come out in 2024, that's in the can, as it were. There's still plenty of work to do, and I would expect that, judging on the responses from audiences around the world, that he'll probably do some shaping, just, he'll do some rethinking.
Well, we're running out of elements. First we got the forest, then we have water.
No, we've got a lot of elements. We're going to hold in place in 3, and then 4 and 5 get really out, they're crazy.
Woo!
I have just one more question, then we'll open it up to the floor for questions. Just talk a little bit about shooting underwater. I mean, what was that like?
It's challenging, as you've just seen it, so you know that when I'm in the water, I don't particularly want to be in the water. Whereas there are many characters throughout the picture who, that's their milieu. That's where they're most comfortable in the water. And even the Sully family, they get really good in the water really quick. Boy, it ain't Portage is bad at all. Having said that, I did the training the same as anybody else. Did the breath holds, and then worked in the tank. Performance capture, doing performance capture underwater was the difficult thing, because the way that the light breaks through the surface screws everything up, and it took them a while to figure it out, and they ended up putting 500,000 plastic balls down on the surface of the thing. So you're always digging these plastic balls out of every place in your body. People swallow them. It was crazy. But, that's like, maybe you've read, Cameron loves the ocean and loves the water. And this was just the heart of the matter on this particular show.
Are you allowed to say anything about how your character evolves in 3?
Not really, no. Yeah, he gives up his weapons and finds a nice blue girl and settles.
Blue house.
Like not. No, I can't say much about it other than, he's not going to give up.
It seemed like he was going to give up. Too. I mean, it's pretty staunch.
So limps off.
So, questions from the audience? We have somebody with a roaming mic.
Great films. After spending all those months or maybe years in the motion capture suit in that, what you call the volume, what did it feel like to see yourself on screen with the shoulders of Superman and the waist of Scarlett O'Hara?
It was the waist that I really liked. I've been striving to maintain a 32-inch waist for a long time, and they did even better. I thought, they tapered them, and I didn't argue about that at all. I thought the look was just dead on. When I first saw it, I was, you're very critical of it, obviously. But I looked at it, and I thought they captured both the essence of Quaritch and of myself, as Quaritch, I thought. I thought they did a really good job with that. And it felt great to see the characters that way.
Anybody else?
I'm sure you have, as an actor, had a long career, and you've been asked to play many different kinds of characters. Are you attracted to play the villain or the hero more? because in this film and the previous film, obviously you've been the villain, but you have been asked to play many different kinds of things, so what are you attracted to more personally?
No, first I just have to say that I think every character, and indeed probably every person, is the hero of their own narrative, it seems to me. And I think Cort certainly is. I mean, Cort, it wouldn't matter to him one way or the other how you characterized him, as heroic or as a villain, but how would he characterize himself? He characterized himself as a man who's doing his job, it seems to me. As for myself, I just love a great role, and if you do a terrific villain, it would be wonderful to follow that up with a great, just a heroic role. God forbid somebody should cast me in a romantic comedy. You know? I'd love to do one, but I do, you know, it's not bad being one of the bad guys, you know, and if you can be at the top of that heap. Some of my very, very favorite performances in films are the bad guys, are the villains, you know, for sure. They can be very, very memorable. What distinguishes the villain, of course, is a villain really needs to be used with great efficiency and very, very kind of, a villain should be like one of that exotic spice that you don't want to put too much of it in there, you know? A villain should be that food that you know is bad for you, but you can't give quite enough of at the same time. So I guess I do like the villains.
Anybody else?
Hello. I was wondering, what was it like working with James Cameron? Just how was he as a person, working with you and the other actors on set?
He's a great director. He's very specific. He's very demanding of himself and of his crew. I'm sure you, over the years, perhaps heard stories that he can be intimidated, he can be explosive. And that's all true, but I think that Jim has mellowed tremendously with age. He doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. He's got a great sense of humor. So there really was a lot of laughter on the set, which is a good thing when you're working under such a focused, you know, pressurized kind of situation. He and I have a very good working relationship. We tend to spar a lot, and we tend to work publicly, which is to say we have our conversations often quite loudly and in full earshot of the crew. And we do that because we're both, I play an alpha male, and he is an alpha male. So we tend to compete for the space. And the crew always likes it. Now, that's not the way. So that's how Jim deals with me, and I deal with Jim. What do you want? You want me to do that? All right, I'll do it. I'll try it. You know, and just a lot of that. Whereas he would never work that way with Zoe. It would be these, you know, they'd go sit in a corner for 40 minutes and have a long conversation. And then, of course, with the kids, with all the young people, you know, this was their first film for most of these kids, and they did just a splendid job. And he elicited those performances out of them. And they're all very different, and he worked with them very, very differently. So that's the mark of a terrific director who's able to adjust in order, you know, to able to kind of understand the needs of an actor and to adjust. And it says that his ego is in a very, very kind of good place as well. He's secure enough to be very adaptable. So I enjoy working with him a lot. And I can speak for every actor who came on the show also, that they enjoyed working with him too. He's a good dude, he's a great guy.
Okay, I think two more questions. This gentleman over here has his hand up for a while.
You're obviously like enemies with the main character in the story, but how do you get along with him on stage?
How do I get along with
Like the main character?
Sam? You mean with Jake Sully?
Yeah.
Well, we work closely together and we have a lot of violence together, so we try to get along good. Because we have to take care of each other, you know? Even if we didn't like each other, we have to take care of each other. But as it happens, now I guess I've known Sam for 13 or 14 years, and I think the world of him. And I do think that his performance as Jake Sully it kind of gets bypassed a lot of the time. But the truth is, he really is the rock at the center of both of the films, and certainly this one, that really holds this thing together. You've got Neytiri, you know, Zoe is just so emotional. She's all over the place with her emotions, and of course Kiri is sort of flitting about, and I'm being bad and everything. And Sam is right in the middle of this, and what he's doing a lot of the time is worrying. He's worrying, and he's about his children, and that's a hard thing to do, I think, and make it kind of, dramatic and interesting. I think he does such a good job at it. So he's a wonderful leading man, and I pay him a lot of respect, and I have a lot of friendship with him at all. And we've still got a journey to go on together, so I think we'll just keep our friendship intact.
One more question.
Hi, I was just curious, were you involved in the creation of Navi Porch, the character model? How was that created and how were you involved?
As I recall, I didn't look at preliminary sketches, but as I recall, I saw some fairly, and whatever I saw, I never said, I don't like that, don't do that. I was pretty happy with everything that they did, and my job was not to, my job was my job. And, I'll tell you, when you work in this idea, you're not only the actor playing the role, I am the steward of the role. Because this role, of course, is something that it's the creation of a number of people. I'm number one there, because, but the other folks who are involved are very, very important. So I think it's a very good question, and I think I have every reason to be involved in it. As it happens, I just thought they did a great job. If Sigourney were up here and you asked the question, she'd give a great answer, because when she first saw what Kiri was, she thought, it's nice, great job, fellas, except it's too perfect, it's too buttoned up. She needs to be askew, she needs to be gawkier and everything, and they did that. They made her, there's something goofy about Kiri, which is really Sigourney's thing. Now, I wasn't going for, if they'd done anything goofy with my character, I would say, get rid of that goofy shit. And make sure he's got a 28-inch waist.
So, we have, I think about 20 posters from the film, which Stephen has graciously agreed to sign, and we're selling them at the box office out there to raise money to run the theater. And so we also have like that coat on the floor. I was thinking we'd auction that off.
Woo!
I don't know what the baseline is, but maybe the gloves. Anyway, I think Stephen has owed a lot of. We really appreciate the fact that he came out for this. It's a wonderful performance and a wonderful film, and I think he deserves a rousing round of applause.